Coronavirus could pave the way to a universal basic income. That's the top story that I want to cover in this video. Somebody needs to tell me how this is going to work. I need an economic explanation of how this is actually going to create more prosperity and how it isn't going to just cause a huge wealth transfer, especially, they use these things as a cover to also transfer wealth. All these bailouts, a lot of wealth is going to be transferred to big companies and the big banks, the financial sector in this crisis, and it's stolen from the average person. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to steal from everybody. Anyway, this guy standing, a research professor in development studies, so at least he's not in economics, University of London, said that there was no prospect of a global economic revival without a universal basic income. I just want to know where it works, how it works. The International Monetary Fund expects the global economy to suffer its worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Actually, they are behind the curve. One day they will be admitting that this is the worst financial crisis in history, bar none. It doesn't matter how far back you go or in any society. There's no time where the entire world was so invested in paper assets, and those assets blown into bubbles by the world's central banks, and then you unleash. You could go back to the Black Plague, and the economic effects pale in comparison to what is going to happen here. In his Easter letter over the weekend, Pope Francis said that this may be the time to consider a universal basic wage. And we've already gone down this road in the United States. We've sent everybody $1,200. There's a bill that's going to be presented to Congress to send everybody $2,000 a month until this crisis is over. And I just want to know how that is going to work. Earlier this month, Spain's Minister for Economic Affairs said that the Eurozone's fourth largest economy would roll out a universal basic income as soon as possible. So they're just going to do it. And he said that the government's wish is to make it a nationwide basic wage a permanent instrument that supports its citizens forever. Somebody please explain to me how this is going to work. The true wealth is from you and me creating a product or a service for each other and then trading that product or service. And we use a medium of exchange to do it, which is nothing but a measurement tool. You can put a price on something and a temporary storage device for that value that the true wealth had, the goods and services that we exchanged. If I've got currency and I pay you for something that you sell me, the value of what you sold me is temporarily stored in that currency, and then you're going to take that currency and buy something else of value that you want or need, and the value to you will be equal to the value that you sold to what I valued your product or service at. They're creating more digits, and they're adding these digits to people's bank accounts, and those digits are the measurement tool. And what happens is they add it to the bank account, and this is an empty digit that has no value whatsoever. It gets its value the moment that it's spent into circulation. And once it's spent into circulation, it dilutes the pool of digits, stealing value from all of the other digits and transferring. That's where it gets its purchasing power. Stolen purchasing power. It's theft. And so we're all going to steal from each other. And that's supposed to make us all richer and keep things from getting worse. But if the true wealth is the goods and services that we create for one another, how does typing digit create more units of goods and services? Wealth is constantly produced and consumed, created and consumed. We grow food and then we eat it. We build a car and then we drive it until it goes to the junkyard. We make clothes, and then we wear them until we donate them or throw them out or whatever. Wealth is constantly being created and consumed. Well, you're going to see in some of the next stories here, suddenly the creation has gone away. So there's much less creation. All of the manufacturing is dropping, retail sales is dropping, wealth creation is falling off of a cliff. They're going to create more of these fiat units, the medium of exchange, and dilute that pool of measurement devices and units of exchange while the wealth is falling. This is a recipe for disaster. It cannot end well. There's no way that this can work. I want somebody to show me how the economics of modern monetary theory, the Maduro-Mugabe theory or the magic money tree, how this universal basic income works. It can't. So some of the other stories that sort of connect to this, it's interesting. You read stories and they give you a point of view that somebody's pointing out something to you. But if you accidentally read another one that somehow reflects on that one, even though they're different stories about different things, if you can connect the dots, and then you read another one, it's 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. You come up with this brand new number at the bottom where you sort of get what's going on in the economy or in anything else for that matter. So the next one I read was Money is Losing Its Meaning. We're going to come back to these in a few minutes. And this is about all of the currency creation, the extra digits that they're typing to try and get through this, and then unprecedented decline in retail sales, and it will get worse. And so this one is about the fall of true wealth being created. And you read these things and connect the dots. I'll show you some more dots that I connected in reading them later. But Gold Telegraph points out that Turkish Treasury issues gold bonds. Gold is once again reasserting itself as the only true money. It's becoming the preeminent currency on the planet, while it's always been the only true money. But it's once again reasserting itself as this preeminent currency as the other currencies start to fade and go by the wayside. That is really what's going on right now. But the Turkish Treasury and Finance Ministry issued, past tense, gold bonds and certificates. I don't know if this is true. This is what Gold Telegraph wrote. But they issued gold bonds and certificates for 15,479 kilograms. That's about 500,000 ounces of gold, equivalent to more than $850 billion. And that is actually a significant amount for a country like Turkey. And this pays 0.75, so 0.75% interest semi-annually. So it's going to do that 2 times because these are 1-year bonds. So you're getting 1.5% interest on that, which is much higher than the return in a bank account or something like that. And the certificates are issued in return for gold bars weighing a minimum of 1 kilogram. So that is about a $55,000 gold bar that's backing these. So the average person will not be able to redeem these for gold, but they'll be exposed to the price rise of gold plus 1.5%. So again, gold providing cash flow, providing income. I want to welcome the 905 new subscribers, and make sure that you hit that notification bell and give us the thumbs up if you can. These things really help, and one of the things that I am most worried about is a slide into socialism because of what is happening economically. We came close to it, in the Great Depression, and this is something that is a real threat. And getting the word out, when you give us a thumbs up and when you hit that subscribe and hit that notification bell, it ups our standing in the YouTube algorithm, and that little bar on the side of the videos that shows recommended videos, we rank higher in that. And share this, because when you do that, if somebody that wasn't interested in this clicks on that and they learn something and then they share it with somebody else, there's this compounding effect, and who knows, you might be the one that kept us from the slide into socialism. The chart of the day, I'm turning this into charts of the day, there's 2 of them. The article, Money is Losing Its Meaning. Doing whatever it takes to save the global economy from coronavirus pandemic is going to cost a lot of currency. the U.S. government alone is spending a few $1 trillion, and the Federal Reserve is creating another few $1 trillion to keep the financial system from collapsing. It's really good that this guy is pointing out that the government and Federal Reserve, these are two different entities. He's not lumping them together. But when you read between the lines, what they're talking about is destroying a confidence in currency, fiat currency. And what I read when I see this, I read between the lines and I see this title, Money is Losing Its Meaning. Money will lose its meaning with regards to people calling fiat currency around the planet. When the majority of the population of this planet no longer calls fiat currency money, when they realize that calling that money was a lie and it's giving currency attributes that it does not have. And only gold and silver have proven to be money throughout the centuries. They're reasserting themselves again. They will do the same thing that they have done thousands of times in the past. All the fiat currencies are going to fade from memory, and we will probably have real money again. But it is losing its meaning. So moving on, I wanted to show you this chart, and it's from that article. A glut of cash. The amount of currency in circulation has more than doubled since before the financial crisis. This goes back to 2007. This is 20 trillion and 40 trillion. So this is about 34 trillion that it starts out at. We're over 82 trillion, but it takes a couple months to compile this data. This is for the M2 figures for 12 major economies. So they're adding them all together. And around the world, all the central banks are hyperinflating their base currency supplies right now. We're all passing these stimulus things. So this is probably for January, possibly February of 2020. But I have a feeling it's January. So by the time April comes in, we're going to be like up here. March, April, May, June. Pretty quickly, we're going to be over this $100 trillion mark. And as we inflate the currency supply, people will stop calling currency money. Eventually, the population of the planet will get it. And at that point in time, this opportunity that comes with a wealth transfer of this magnitude will be over with. Mike Shedlock at Mishtalk, you should go and read some of his articles because he is excellent at adding up 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. He understands more about economics than the people running the Federal Reserve. This is the Empire State Manufacturing Index. So Empire State is New York. Manufacturing Index is the Federal Reserve sends out a questionnaire to a bunch of the manufacturers throughout different industries in New York State, and they answer this questionnaire and it gets a rating. And you can see that after the crash of 2000, it came back with about an average of a little less maybe, or around this +20 mark. And then it slid from about +24 or +25 down to minus, this is 34.3 in his article. He said it bottomed there. And this took 2 years to do. If you look at this scale, this is 4 years at each one of these. So more than a year to do. And here we've gone from +12, this weak economic recovery. I kept on calling this economic recovery anemic, weak. And if you cut off all these tops and fill in all the bottoms, you'll see that it's about 8%, +8 compared to +18 or 20 here. And then we had reached this +12, and then just the past couple of weeks, all the way down to -78. This is tragic, and you'll notice it can only go to -100, and that's like no manufacturing. This is going to fall next week. It'll probably go close to that -90. Next month it'll fall. This is really tragic, and it relates to those articles. If you're going to print new digits, but the true wealth, this is the true wealth, vanishing, and we're consuming wealth all the time. Remember, it's created and consumed constantly, and to get richer as a society, as a planet, we have to create more than we're consuming. And right now, we have shut off the creation end. Viewer feedback. I want to thank everybody for taking this little poll that we've got regarding the relationship of the Federal Reserve and BlackRock. I asked, does this have an aroma to it? Some sort of funky odor? And your replies were squeaky clean 1%, business as usual 5%, slightly concerning 9%, and 82% of you said it has the stench of a boggy swamp. Now, I'm laughing, and the reason, we should be crying. The only thing you can do if you can't laugh about this is cry, and I'd rather laugh. But everybody needs to protect themselves from this stuff. Simple basic market knowledge says, thank you for another market update. You make a good point of how the 2020s might end up looking a lot like the 1920s. Well, it's the 1930s, actually, that we had this slide toward socialism. And if you read Milton Friedman, you'll see that he said that, he really studied this. And he said that the Great Depression was absolutely the Federal Reserve and the government's fault. The Federal Reserve's management and the government rushing in to save us. It was absolutely their fault. It should have been a garden variety to severe recession that would have lasted 1 to 2 years at the most. And I've studied it up and down, and I absolutely agree with Milton Friedman's take on this. It was the government's fault, and that's what scares me about what's going on right now. They're rushing in to save us. This could end up dragging out for decades. Justin Evans, I got my helicopter money this morning, and yes, 95% of it went into silver. Well, I want to point out, Justin, that you got your helicopter currency, and yes, you bought money with it. I think that's great. The meme of the day. But first, like I keep on saying, most of you have probably already gotten my book. It's a free download. But the first part of it, there's 20% of it that is a very entertaining history of fiat currencies against money, this constant battle. And money, gold and silver, give fiat currencies a knockout blow time after time after time. And after studying monetary history, you too will come with to the conclusion that you will give fiat currencies a 0% chance of winning this battle this time. So download that, send it to everybody that you care about. And last, we're going to get to the meme of the day. That's an $11,000 in fines right there. This is some state passing an emergency order that calls for fines of up to $1,000 for ignoring social distancing. Do you see a face mask on any of these career politicians? Here you see them all looking down, envying the person that's signing it, thinking, next election, I'm going to be sitting in that chair, passing all these things and controlling the population and deciding what they should all do. Meanwhile, they're ignoring this bill that they're signing. And she is the only one that has even the remotest sense of responsibility toward this thing by having a little bit of distance, but there's no gloves or mask. And he's the only one wearing eyewear, but it's not because of the coronavirus. So I hope you got something from this and that you've learned something and found it entertaining simultaneously. We'll see you next time.